Hey there, folks. What's going on? It's Codiak and Livid here, coming at you in stereo. And today we are diving into the Crucible. This is Amazon Game Studios' upcoming third-person shooter. Super excited about this one. And today we're going in depth with Drakahl. He's one of 10 new characters, and we couldn't do this without doing it together. So, Livid, what is going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm super pumped to be here. We're trying out this new format together, and I think this will work pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we both have experience in this shooter genre. You have a lot more experience with the PvP side of things. Me, I'm a PvE guy. So I think this is going to be a really interesting experience with a PvEVP type game.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's gonna be I think it's a good spin on the whole genre that they're trying to do here. So I think without further ado, we should just jump right into the trailer.
Let's do it. He's a big boy.
Yeah, it looks like a definite bruiser.
This is Drakahl. He's a piece of work, you know? I mean, he's not evil, not exactly.
Big spinny boy.
But he's really good with that axe, and he really enjoys swinging it.
Oh, this is
People
100% your
underestimate
character,
it
Cody.
at first. I mean, sure, they're ready for the melee swings with the axe, but nobody is prepared for the sonic pulse the axe fires to
Okay.
hit them when they're out of reach.
Little range
He's
there.
got a ranged attack as well. That's
And
nice.
he's quick on his feet, too, for such a big guy. He can power up that axe to stun and to bleed his enemies. When he whips himself into a frenzy, he can pull opponents in close or
Okay.
gain health from hitting them.
So he's like a lot of catch
Nobody
control.
underestimates him twice. Good luck.
Not just a pretty face.
Oh,
What a
snap.
cool character. I mean, I just was enthralled the entire time how beefy, but how quick he could move.
Yeah, it's like it's an interesting take on like we're used to seeing like tanky kind of like heavy hitting characters, not so agile, but he looks like a super threat on the field, like just run you down and keep you there. Like
Definitely different than the sword and board type tanks, more of damage first, care about my health and my defense later type guy.
yeah, and they were saying that he can cause like some bleed damage with his abilities. He's able to stun. He's got control for pulling people in, so he's just there to keep you locked in. And I'm pretty sure he can also do he does some bleed damage or not just bleed damage, life steal. So it looks like his sustain comes in the form of like just beating the crap out of enemies.
Yeah, and like you said, you mentioned in the trailer, he's all about control, and that's a really interesting concept where a lot of bruiser or frontline characters are all about helping your team kind of weather the storm. He's more about kind of peeling enemies off, keeping them locked down, bleeding them, forcing them to move in certain directions and force scenarios.
Yeah. And another thing I noticed too, like I was watching his cooldown bars at the bottom right, and whenever he used an ability, he only had like an 11, 12-second cooldown on some of his like big stun hitting attacks and like his grapple. So like a 10, 11 to 12-second cooldown, that's pretty short for at the speed at which this game moves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And so let's quickly take a look at his kind of stat chart here. Now that I'll go through it top to bottom just so everybody at home can follow along. So the top one is health, second one down is defense, third one down is mobility, fourth one down is control, fifth one down is damage, and the final one down there is range. So what do we get just by looking at this chart? What is Drakahl going to be all about?
Like, he's all about just keeping people locked down. Like he wants to just get people away or, in an area that higher damage dealing like teammates can really like just pump damage into.
I mean, those top two bars are control and mobility.
Yeah. So he wants to catch people, isolate them, and just, provide an opportunity for his team to really catch up. I think that's what it's going to be, his main use.
Yeah, and just looking at some of the other characters in the game, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of frontline bruiser type characters. So he fits in a really interesting space. From what we can tell, obviously we haven't played the game yet, but from what we can tell, he fits into a really interesting space in the Crucible.
Yeah. 100% there.
All right, so what do we think? What kind of we talked a little bit about his abilities. What type of play style? Like where does he fit on our team of four? Say we're playing Heart of the Hive. We have a team of four. Where does he fit into the mix?
I think in our team composition, he's definitely gonna be a frontliner. Like he's gonna be the kind of like almost like tracker. Like if you're looking for enemies to fight or even just PvE creatures, he's gonna be the one that's getting up in their face, like to draw aggro and just try to deal much damage and keep them locked there. And then you're gonna have somebody that's more of like a high damage like sniper in the distance, like a Jonah, like popping them from a distance, like keeping them as far away but still within range. So like you'll probably see like the two of them, like I'd say like Ajona and Drakahl are probably going to be moving together trying to grab people, and you're going to have like the more supporty characters or ones that do more like sustained damage over time will then be showing up to the fight amidst that. Like I don't think you're going to be running like super close knit. You're going to want, people grabbing people and peeling them off. So I think that's where he'll fit in.
And what's so interesting about this character is that while he does have that kind of jet propulsion thing that pushes him into a fight, he's also probably going to have to move out of fights just as much because if you look at that stat chart again, I mean, his health and his defense are fine, but again, he's not a tank.
Right.
So he's going to need to use that jet propulsion to engage, stun, control, bleed people. He may need to use it to get out. So he really is a distraction control type character.
Yeah, I can see him getting in there, causing bleed, procking his life steal on there, and then just as quickly as he's in, he just dips back out while they're sitting there stunned. And then if they try to engage back on him, he can zip in another direction, or another teammate can jump on him during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think that these melee characters, I mean, just looking at him, right? Big old two-handed axe, he's beefy. People may automatically assume, oh, this is an easy character to wrap my head around. But it's actually, after looking at the stats and kind of what his abilities are, he's actually probably a high skill cap character.
Yeah, because you got to know when to engage and when to disengage. Definitely.
Right, and how to use those different controlling abilities, how to really isolate a team or manipulate a team to, benefit your team.
Right, and we really haven't even gotten a chance, and we'll do so in the future of getting into like their essence upgrades because we know that you can choose different paths to really like amp the ability or amp the capability of some of your abilities, going forward. So we don't know if like one build might be just all about damage and another might be really specking into more heavy control. So he might have different ways of playing that character.
Right.
And really knowing which one to pick in the match that you're going into with your comp might be, a significant learning curve.
Right. And it's a combination of knowing your team and then knowing how to build this character because with the Crucible, the essence upgrades, you have to do those beforehand. You pick your essence upgrades beforehand. And as you level up in each match, you unlock those things. So you really need to know your teammates or you really need to know the build that works for you. One of those two things, or hopefully both.
I would 100% agree with that. And I think, there are going to be times where he's going to run into some problems. So there could be like potential counters coming forward that would be something like, maybe even, a mirror of himself, because we know there's going to be instances where there's 8v8 game modes, right? And during those times, there's going to be another version of himself. Someone else that can lock him down, like as he initiates his jump, like his boost, because there's going to be a cooldown period on that. And that's when he's vulnerable, like right after that boost. So if he gets in and does damage without people really capitalizing on that moment that he jumps in, then he's going to be kind of a sitting, target. If he can get back out of there really quickly, like after he's in there without really worrying too much, he's going to be pretty safe.
Right. And one of the most vulnerable Drakahls, I think, is going to be one that engages or misengages. Everybody else peels off or gets away. He just used his abilities, his engage ability. He's got nothing to swing at. He's a sitting duck. And I mean that ranged ability is okay, but it's not great.
Yeah, that's more kind of like the chip damage kind of thing. He's not like bread and butter. It looks like his bread and butter is really just being up in your face and getting out.
Right. It's that same type of chip ability that like a Reinhardt has, right? You throw it out there, you're just trying to knock somebody off their game, just try to confuse them or manipulate them just enough so that you can either close the gap, get away, just make them think you're doing something that you're not.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely how I would see it.
So we're thinking hard range counters, those further away characters, anybody that can keep their distance from Drakahl is going to have that advantage.
Yeah, just as much as I think Ajona would be a good character to pair with him, like going after people, I think it's also one of his strongest counters. Because with the grappling hook, you can get away from whatever dash that he's coming at you with if you don't get hit by the stun, and then you're up in the air and you could just fire down damage on him before he has another chance to boost away.
Right. Right.
So like something like that, or even just like someone that misengages on like bug, right? And he's got his plants kind of set up. The placement of those are really going to matter. If they're not set up beforehand, I think he'll easily pick them up. But if he's jumping into an engagement that they haven't scouted properly, that's where he's going to fall short.
Right. And one of the cool things about the Crucible, from everything that we can tell, there is a lot of verticality. There are a lot of paths in this game. So a smart Drakahl is going to be able to sneak up on enemies as much as possible, as much as a hulking behemoth can do, and really kind of manipulate them from a surprised position, as opposed to just running at somebody, and they see you from a mile away. A bad Drakahl is just going to do that. They're going to run at them. The person over on the other end of the map is going to start firing at him. He's going to be half dead by the time he even engages.
Yeah, I think there's definitely needs to be somebody that kind of like draws their attention like momentarily before he engages. That would be probably the play style that would fit best with him.
100%. All right, so let's quickly look at the essence upgrades. Thanks to the PlayCrucible Reddit community, we have these great infographics showing the character and their essence upgrade. And let's just quickly go through each tier. And we were talking about builds before. Take me through that first tier here, because each one really sets Drakahl up to be a different type of character.
Right. So at like level 1, we see that he has the option to get second win, which is a successful chop attack, which is I think is his basic attack. Reduces the cooldown of your rush by 1 second. So the more you're swinging, the more that your rush, your dash comes off cooldown. So it really I see how that plays really well together, and that's like a significant upgrade for essence wise, right? And then he has another one that's a maiming blow. So chop will inflict a dot against targets with less than 50% health. So there's like a condition there. So he's got to get in there and do enough damage first before it really chips away and allows the bleeding effect to really take place. You know what I mean? And then the last one on that tree is get him gutted. Quick melee causes vulnerability for 3 seconds. What that means exactly, I'm not sure, but it sounds like a status debuff effect that makes him probably take more damage on the enemies.
Right, and some of the better Drakahl players, at least in my initial reaction to this, would go with second wind. If they're successfully landing chop after chop after chop, they're going to be able to get rush off cooldown. You said most things are 10 to 15 seconds. A 5 chops in there on a small engagement will bring that down, to 10 or 5 seconds. That's a big deal.
Right, and in the time that you're already engaging, that timer's already going down too. So, a 10-second cooldown on say something like his dash, right? And you hit with five attacks in the span of 5 seconds, well, it's off cooldown already then.
Right, a Drakahl bouncing around the map every 5 seconds. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, so tier 2 here is we only have one option, tough it out. 25% of incoming normal damage to you becomes a dot. So this basically just spreads out the damage. You don't take it as like front-loaded damage. You take it spread out. That is a little bit of a tanky passive skill, if you will.
Definitely. So I mean, you would definitely need, if he goes with that skill, you need a healer paired with him. So tier 3, we got what? Okay, now I'm mad. So the damage multiplier by plus 15% when he's below 50% health. So that pairs really well with that level 2, with that tier 2 of the level 1 essence upgrades, right? So he's going to do significantly more damage the lower and lower your health gets. And then his second unlock on there is you detect targets with dot within 80 meters. So that's pretty cool. The blood tracker allows you to really like, if you're trying to chase players down, but your team hasn't quite caught up to you and there's like a straggler, you can hit him and then dash away to safety if you cause bleed to him, and it allows your teammates and stuff to keep chasing that enemy down and always know where he's at. So that's a really good strategy for really peeling players off their groups.
Well, hopefully it does say you detect targets. So we don't know quite yet if
Yes,
blood
true.
tracker is going to be just for Drakahl or for an entire team. But if it's for an entire team, that's a game changer.
Yeah, that'd be busted, I think, actually, if it was.
All right, last one there, incoming.
Yeah, incoming, a sonic pulse that destroys enemy projectiles. That's another really tanky kind of ability. It negates ranged damage essentially. So
Right, and it's taking Sonic Pulse from that chip ability that we talked about before and making it more of a defensive or utility ability, something that a Drakahl, a team-oriented Drakahl can see, oh, there's a big projectile coming, I can use Sonic Pulse and destroy it, either protecting my team, protecting myself, something like that.
right,
And just to clarify with okay, now I'm mad, it almost seems like that talent is something that you would take if you're solo, because I think it gives you a damage multiplier when you're below that 50%, right? So is that
right.
something that you would take, I mean, by yourself, where you're probably going to be below 50% more often when you don't have a healer, next to you all the time?
Yeah, that would make sense to me. Because if you're above that cap all the time, it's a wasted talent.
Exactly. Right. So if I'm solo, I'm going into the queue. That's something I may consider taking because I know I'm not going to get healed as much, say, as if you and I were playing together and one of us was healing.
Right, exactly. I would agree with that.
All right, so the next one here, another just a one option choice. Push through the pain. Damage does not interrupt med kit use. We saw that in the trailer. There are med kits at the bottom of the screen. Doesn't really have anything to do with the main gameplay, but no interruption of your healing is really good.
Yeah, I mean that also plays off his strength of being able to dash around and catch people.
Yeah, and it actually reduces kind of the viability of okay, now I'm mad, because if you're now you have an easier way to heal up. What's the point of that talent if you're trying to stay capped at all times?
Yeah, we just wonder how limited medkits are. That's the other thing.
That's true. All right, take us through that last tier there, tier 5.
So on tier 5, we got Abs of Plasteel. So enraged makes you invulnerable for 1.5 seconds, it looks like. Um, that sounds kind of busted. It's like a hard CC break, basically. Um, and just damage in general. So if you have that, you jump in, you get enraged, and they can't touch you for 1.5 seconds. And if they're getting lower and lower, and you have maiming blow, you're just going to start going off on them. The faster you get damaging on them.
Right. And we still don't know exactly how the enrage works, right?
Right. It could be something that's like triggerable, or maybe it's something that it just automatically procs when it gets to a certain point. Like if it's controllable, this seems like a really good talent. You know, um, and then Sonic Shock, the Sonic pulses now slow targets by 25% for 3 seconds, which aids in more CC. Allows his whole team basically to catch people if he's running around with Sonic Pulse going off. And it just 3 seconds is a really long time to be slowed.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that control. It's all about manipulating the enemy team, and with that talent, it just completely, amps that factor of Drakahl up to 10. That 3 seconds, like you said, is a long time. If you're hitting one of their characters that is squishier, is softer, and you hit them with a Sonic Pulse, allows your team to close that gap. I mean, 3 seconds is a lifetime in a competitive game like this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it literally means life or death for characters at times. If you're caught out as like a supporty character, you don't have that much of a health pool usually to work with.
All right, so final thoughts on Drakahl. You get the final word. What do you think?
I think he's going to be a really staple character. Like judging from what I've like read so far about the different characters, his control kit seems really good. He's extremely agile. It's going to be to the favor of a lot of people's playstyles. I think being able to like get in and out. Like I think a lot of people enjoy those characters, like from games like Overwatch, where there's like Genji. He gets in, does some damage, gets out. There's a lot of people that love those style of characters. And this one just seems like he's got a little bit of added survivability on top of that, while also contributing to like a support kind of role to his team. I think it's all around like really solid kit, and I think he'll be pretty picked up, I think, in a lot of cases.
All right, you heard it here. He's going to be a staple of the teams, guys. Remember to like and subscribe to Legion Gaming if you want more Crucible videos in your feed. Livid and myself will be back for another character in-depth dive very soon. But for now, my name is Codiak. That's been Livid. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.